Here's a history lesson that really applies to stuff that's happening nowadays. But in 1933, March of 1933, the United States was in the worst depths of the Great Depression. Unemployment was about 25%, thousands of banks had failed, and millions were struggling just to eat. And Roosevelt, the president at the time, was well aware of this, and he knew that as president, everything he did would be watched. And he could do something simple as serving at the White House simpler meals, things that people in America could actually afford to eat. So he made the deliberate choice that the White House would not serve extravagant meals. His first lady, Eleanor Roosevelt, and him insisted on simple, inexpensive, and reflective meals that reflected what people were actually eating. Eleanor took the lead role because she was head of household management as the first lady, and she famously dictated to the kitchen to prepare plain and modest meals, like deviled eggs, scrambled eggs, stew, and prune pudding, which I tried once and is terrible. Dishes that easily would appear on people's dinner table because they wanted to reflect what people were going through. And this was way different than the presidents before him, Hoover and Wilson, who served multi-course, lavish meals. So, under Eleanor Roosevelt, some of the famous White House menus were deviled eggs with tomato sauce, cold mutton and pickled beets, and cornmeal pudding with hard sauce. Not even sure what hard sauce is, but it sounds terrible. Even the visiting dignitaries like kings, queens, ambassadors, all these very important people in the world, once commented saying they were remarkably frugal for the head of the richest nation on earth. But this was the whole point. It was intentional. FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt wanted the White House to reflect solidarity with the American people struggling during the Great Depression, showing that they were not living in luxury while others were hungry. Eleanor later wrote a letter, and she said in that letter that the White House would not appear insulated from the struggles of the country. Meanwhile, you could look even further back in France before the revolution, and while people were struggling just for bread, and there were bread riots, the aristocracy in France was having lavish parties, themed lavish parties with cakes and all sorts of things while people were struggling just to eat. And that kind of led to a revolution. So while FDR and Eleanor Roosevelt were showing what real leadership was, the aristocracy in France before the revolution was not. And this applies nowadays because we see that Trump is throwing great Gatsby parties while the news is talking about, will SNAP benefits be there to feed children because 50% of the people on SNAP are children. Just goes to show you history matters.